Peace and assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm feeling a little emotional. I'm going to try to keep it together. But I just saw the video of the American Idol. I think she was a finalist, Syesha Mercado, who she's in the news right now because apparently her 18-month-old son was taken from her by authorities 5 months ago. And then the other day, she and her partner, husband, or what have you, were stopped by police, and she was breastfeeding her new baby, who was she was breastfeeding the baby, and they took the baby from her. There's a video, I'm telling you, I saw just, I couldn't take it because that hits very, very, very close to home for me for different reasons, which I will mention shortly. But it's just devastating. I can only watch like very little bit, not even a minute of it. She's wailing, she's begging. As not a person of color, but as an Afro native, I know very, very well historically this sort of thing has happened to black and brown women for centuries. They just come with their laws and whatnot, and they just take our children. And unless you want to die and they're going to take your child anyway, what can you do but live to fight to get your children back? And I'm going to tell you, that hits close to home for me on so many levels. Of course, what I just said, because though these things are historic, they're very, very real in my life and constant. You know, my people, we don't forget. We haven't forgotten. And then on top of that, my family suffered. My generation, we suffered because the authorities were in our lives for decades. And so, I probably said this in another video before, but when talking about back in the 80s, there used to be somebody in, I don't want to like mention names because I don't want to hurt or offend certain people in my family that I love, but there was somebody close in the family or to the family who she would get mad at you. And this is the black woman, for all you black people who feel like it's always the white people. Ain't always the white people all the time, mostly. But so she would get mad at people and she will call DIFAS. DIFAS is the Division of Youth and Family Services in New Jersey, and they come and take your kids. And I'm sure back in those days, I don't know this because I haven't researched it. It just popped in my head, but I'm almost certain they were not taking white people's children. Definitely not at the rate they were taking black people's children. And so in my family, this person, she did the same thing to us. And another person did it also to my aunt. So, and see, I can't say names or like relationship, but this person is very directly involved in our family. And so, like I said, she would get pissed off at somebody. And you know, like if she had an argument with somebody or like whatever the case to be, she would get mad. She would call DIFAS. Now, mind you, somebody should have been calling DIFAS on her ass if you really want the truth. Well, how she was with her kids and everything, abusive and such. But nonetheless, this person calls on my mother, who my mother was not a drinker. My mother was very religious, first of all, or like spiritual, what have you. She didn't drink, she didn't smoke, not even cigarettes. She didn't do any type of drugs. She didn't curse. My mother, very seldom, if we just drove her up a wall, she might say ass or damn, but that was very rare. And you know, everybody was poor, especially in the 80s. This is before hip hop popped off and people started to make, you know, even after hip hop was big for a long time, people still weren't making money. Like, you didn't have these billionaires and millionaires and stuff with, you know, among black people, certainly young black people on top of that back then. So we were like, basically everybody was poor. You had middle class folks, but nowhere by where I live. And so, you know, we were struggling, but we always had, for the most part, we had food. We certainly had clothes. My mom would always, the best thing of her life was when she was finally able to afford a washing machine, because there were a bunch of us. My mom had 7 children. And so, you know, I remember the day when diapers came to the house, and my mother was devastated, of course. And oof, I'm good. So I can remember her going from closet to closet to the cupboards, like showing like, no clothes, like, what is this? Like, we have clothes and I have food, because the person said that all my mother fed us was oatmeal. And so she was like showing a lady, and I remember it was the black woman, and she said, the first time I remember ever hearing the word protocol was this woman. She's like, I understand, and but you know, this is just protocol. This is what I have to do. I have to come out here and check, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, it'll be okay. Bullshit. Diapers was in our lives for, like, we all aged out, meaning we all turned 18. And so this is like, when you turn 18, you're no longer a part of the system. But it wasn't even 7 of us at the time. I'm sorry. My mother eventually had 7 children, and she was super happy when she got the washing machine. But when diapers came in our lives, that was the early 80s. So there was only maybe 4 of us. Well, she passed away in 86. So there may have been, let me see, me, my brother Sahib, my sister Bay, my brother Haka. I don't know if my sister Kalila was born yet. So there were maybe 4 or 5 of us. Anyhow, so that's what happened with us with diapers. And it was always a sense on being on edge, because we knew what the reality could be. They could just come and take your kids, because they had already, no, they didn't take my aunt's children yet, I don't think. But we knew the reality. And I know some parents, when they would get like super just frustrated and mad at their kids, they would threaten, you know, like, I'm gonna call diapers and they could take you out of here. You want to be acting like you want to, blah, blah, blah. Or even some kids sometimes, when they would be getting in trouble, the ones who had the nerve to be sassy, they'd be like, I'm gonna call diapers, you know. And of course the mom would be like, call them. But so it was a well-known reality and fear within our within our community, that these people could just swoop in and take your kids, and there would virtually be nothing you could do about it. Of course, at the time, I wasn't familiar with our history of slavery. You know, I was pretty young. I was like 10 or something like that. But yeah, and then the same thing happened with one of my aunts. So I'm making this drawing out, aren't I? But I'm a detail type person, so sorry. So yeah, then my aunt, they took her children for the same reason. Another black woman, I don't, she ain't like my aunt or whatever the case is. And again, my aunt is like crazy nice. She's not a smoker. She would drink once in a while, but it'd be like a cooler and she'd be toe up. But I remember that when I was young. But she was an abused woman. So the father of the children, he would like beat her and everything. I can remember him, my grandfather, getting in a fist fight because my grandfather was like, "You ain't be hitting on my daughter." And but she stayed, you know, for. There's always, you know, reasons why we stay. I think she was just crazy, afraid of him. But nonetheless, somebody in his family called DIFUS. And so they took, actually her first child was taken from her by another gentleman. And then she had like 2 more or whatever, not by him. But, yeah, so the children's dad, somebody in his family called DIFUS on my aunt. Again, somebody need to be calling on her ass. It's funny how people who are shit parents want to be pointing the finger and going to master on other people about how they treat their children. But every time my aunt would get pregnant, they would come to the hospital and they would take the baby from her. And I always, as a young person, and I guess now to a degree, you wonder, why do you keep having babies? Like, but I mean, we can ask the same thing of people who are starving and, you know, have droughts and stuff. Like, why the hell you keep having babies? Because we're human. You know, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's not my reality. But yeah, so then I had another aunt who her child was taken away from her. And then my third aunt, she lost custody of her child, but, you know, she was with the father. But nonetheless, she lost custody and she wasn't allowed to see the child and stuff like that for a while. So, this shit hits close to home because it took us, we are still struggling, my generation and my family. We're still struggling to really get it back together. Now, I'll be honest, they do a better job than I do because, I don't know, I'm the eldest. I don't know, there was like I don't know how to say. Anyway, that might be another digression. So yeah, my mother's children, my mother died in 86. So that same person, again, called DIFUS because my stepfather, and he was a street dude and all that kind of thing, but he was trying to keep the family together. So him being a street guy, he learned how to braid hair. I was no longer there. I they placed me in a foster home. And so, but my stepdad, he kept the other 6. His children, he kept. And so, he was struggling. He had one leg because he was robbed back in like 84, something like that, 84, 85. He was shot. He was robbed and shot. He lost his leg. And so, one of my sisters, 2 of my sisters had cerebral palsy, but one of them, she's purely functional. She's a reverend and a teacher and just dope. But all my siblings are dope. But my other sister, she can't walk, so he would have to flip her over his shoulder and like hop down the stairs, 3 flights of stairs, because, you know, they lived in a building. He would take her down to the school bus and have to hop back upstairs and everything. He learned how to braid hair. He was like, you know, he was doing his thing. Did he have some issues? Hell yes. But he tried to keep it together, and I commend him for that. But that chick called DIFUS, lied, and I remember distinctly what happened. But anyway, that's gonna make this video way longer. Suffice to say, she calls again, and then here come DIFUS. They never left, but they weren't causing a whole lot of, you know, drama and stuff in the house. But they came and they took the children. And he was devastated. I remember he was like, go down there and call the lady and tell her that's not what happened and all this kind of stuff. And because he called on the person for help because somebody had broken into the apartment. He's like, look, I got to get the kids out of here for a little while. I don't know if they're going to come back, blah, blah, blah. She called and told Dyfus that he's on drugs. He said he don't want the kids no more and all this kind of thing. And that was some straight bullshit. Period. If she listened to this video, you know she's a effing liar. And anyway. So this here situation kills me to see this happen to this woman. If you can remember, if you've ever seen the original movie Roots, and you know when Kizzy was ripped away from her mom, from Belle and from Toby, that was this. If you can stand and watch that video, I couldn't stand it. I was about to just die. It's too much. And then the other reason why this is so close to home is because, from what I understand about this sister, first of all, the first baby's name was Amun Ra. They'll tell you all you need to know about it right there. But so from what I understand, and I haven't done a slew of research because I couldn't take it. I'm gonna have to go back to it though, inshallah. But from what I understand, this sister, she's like a naturalist. That's me. My kids, I raised my children vegans. I raised my children with no vaccinations. I raised my children natural remedies 95% of the time. If there was a fever or something like that and I couldn't get it to break, Tylenol it is, because you know fevers aren't something you want to mess with children. But my kids came up like that, herbs, all that kind of thing. My children know how to take care of themselves now. They're grown now and they did not die. I homeschooled all my children. She is me. And so, and she nursed. I nursed all my children for 2.5 years. She is me. And so, from what I understand, they took the first child because she nursed him. And she was having a problem. I think she was, this is what I heard on a show that was talking about it. So don't quote me. Like I said, the article I read didn't touch this far. But allegedly or apparently she was pregnant. She got pregnant again while she was nursing the child. And he was, she's having a hard time weaning him. And then he wouldn't take other things at the same time. So she and the father were concerned and took him to the doctor for help. What's going on? What can I do about this to help my son? Meanwhile, they have 3 other children who are older, from what I understand, who the authorities did not take. They're apparently well capable to take care of them, but not the little ones. So they took the 18-month-old baby because they said she was not, she was unfit because the baby was undernourished. Plenty of babies are undernourished. And the truth is this: just because a child weighs a certain amount, the amount that they say a child should weigh at a certain point, don't mean that baby is healthy. Don't mean the baby is malnourished. But all this crap that people put into their babies, please. So they took that baby, and she's been fighting to get the baby back. Apparently they took the baby and I guess right away gave the baby to a white family. Who knows what that means? I don't know. This is Florida. I would think there are plenty of black families around to get a baby to, whatever. And so with this baby, the new baby, she would not allow them to give the baby a B12 shot. That was me. I had my first 3 children in hospitals, but I wouldn't let them give my baby the K12 shot. Like, for what? That, and also the drops or the cream or whatever they put in baby's eyes. They're like I would say, no, I don't want that. Yeah, but you don't know. Like, when you come down the canal, there could be a disease. I don't have a disease. I know what's going on with my body. Not to mention the fact, so does my GYN. So, they come with all this shit. And if you don't allow them to do or to follow their protocol, then something's wrong with you. And I mean, the same way people talk about like Native history and such, how, the white government or white authorities or whatever, I can't think right now, how they will just come up with these laws and stuff, and it's like, oh, this is our land because this is what the law says. Yeah, nigga, because you made the law and you made it to prefer you over me. It don't mean it's right. It's just some ish that you made up. Same thing. They come up with these laws to say, oh, you can't take care of your child. Give it here. Yo, I'm devastated right now. I'm thoroughly devastated. And let me say to you all, I know a lot of people, because I'm on social media all the time. A lot of people, number one, and this is on both sides, non-vaccinators and vaccinators both feel like, we're right, you're an idiot, without doing any thorough research on anything. Because if you did, you find out a whole lot of shit that they're saying, even on CNN, is not right and exact. They give you bits of truth. And maybe they don't know either. Maybe they don't read either. Maybe they just keep going because everybody's saying the same thing, basically. But if you go, I always say, if you go to the CDC, the WHO, the NHR, the NIH, the NRH, if you go to any of the NPR, any of them cats, you'll find out so much more information if you go on their site. But anyway, for all the people who are vaccinated and are feeling holier than thou and feel like, yeah, they should be asking before you go into a restaurant if you're vaccinated. Like all these things that they're like trying to ease in without making it seem like they're just taking away our freedoms and civil liberties. Yes, it's true. All you people who feel like, yeah, make them get the vaccination. Yeah. And this is long before the whole COVID situation came along. They were building up, trying to force people to be vaccinated, especially when it comes to schools and things, because none of the 50 states mandate for you to have your child vaccinated in order to go to school. It's not true. People say that because they do zero looking. A simple Google search will let you see. I know, because I did have to put my children in school for a couple of years and we're not vaccinated and it was legal. But all of you people who think is, yeah, make them do it, you're idiots, because what do you think is going to come next? It's like when the whole Patriot Act thing came around. I remember, the news people were going to folks on the street, what do you think about the Patriot Act? And it's like, yeah, because we need to know who, the terrorists are and all this kind of thing, talking about Muslims. And everybody was gung-ho, yeah. Until they realized they weren't only following us, they were following everybody. And now, shit, you can't even say something in conversation off the phone for these smartphones to pick up on what you're saying. And then next thing you know, you're scrolling Facebook and here comes something. You were just talking to your friend about snow boots and here comes something about snow boots. And you're like, hey, what the hell? Because Patriot Act, babe, same difference. All this stuff with the vaccinations and them forcing people to do things and them taking your children. All this shit is they're not isolated incidences. I know the people who don't believe in that sort of thing. I sound like a crazy person. But again, stop running your mouths and run your eyes. Do some reading. It's not hard. I ain't nothing special. I know how to damn Google. I'm just devastated about this though, like truly. I know I keep digressing in some ways, but I'm just devastated. I don't know what she's gonna do. I can't imagine what she's going through. And then on top of that, she just gave birth, so her hormones are gonna be crazy right now. And if you can stand to watch that video, you need to watch it, because she's just a regular old person like you and me, and it can happen to anybody. And it's one thing to say what you would do if somebody come up to you and try to take your child, and I'll bust his ass and I'll do this and I'll do, ain't nobody taking my kid. Just pray to the good Lord above that you never are faced with that. This stuff is crazy. This stuff is crazy. I'm reading A Handmaid's Tale, and of course I've seen the movie and the series, and I was just thinking last night how I wonder if people's obsession with the show and the story itself is because it's entertaining, but we know that sort of life can be here like that, truly, because again, all you gotta do is put something in law, right? And you force the people to comply. Most of us are not Nat Turners. We just gonna go with it. We prefer life, no matter how horrible it is. We prefer life. We prefer the less treacherous road. We want a clear path, no matter where that path is going to lead to. Can I not be hurt? Gotcha. Go that way? Gotcha. And again, this is historical. This what happened to her, and the stuff that I'm saying, and things that I probably sound like a Trump supporter right now, which I am not. But from stuff they say, but it's true. This is a steady pattern. It didn't happen 500 years ago when Columbus came, and then 100 years later, and then that was it, and then civil rights happened. You know what I mean? We tend to think of it because the way we learn history and snippets or whatever, and again, we're not really self-learners, typically speaking. So it looks like snapshots. This happened then, and then a long time went, and then that happened then a long time went, and then that happened then, and we're safe. It's 2021. I was like, why? Why would you think that? Are you not paying attention? I don't know. This is nuts.